Have you ever sent out a really important message only to watch it completely backfire? It gets misunderstood, or maybe it even starts a rumor, or it just lands with a thud. The truth is, most of us just communicate on the fly, but that's a huge gamble. Well, today we're going to change all that. We're going to build a clear, repeatable plan to make sure every single message you send lands exactly the way you want it to. Let's dive in.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the real damage that unplanned communication can cause. Then we'll walk through 6 golden steps of a powerful planning framework. That's our solution. We'll do a deep dive into the 4 pillars of that strategy, see it all come to life in a real-world case study, and then we'll wrap up with your personal key to success.
Okay, so let's start with the problem itself. What really happens when we just wing it with our communication? It's not just a simple misunderstanding. No, the consequences are very real, and often they're pretty severe. This quote really gets right to the point, doesn't it? Now look, not every single chat needs a detailed blueprint, of course. But for anything that truly matters, this is the absolute truth. The price you pay for not planning can be incredibly high, for you and for your entire organization. And this is exactly what that high price looks like. It's like a domino effect. Your message gets twisted, which then sparks all these negative reactions you never saw coming. Then, rumors start to fill that information vacuum, and before you know it, your own credibility is on the line. But maybe worst of all, your team feels disrespected simply because it was handled so poorly. These aren't just little bumps in the road, they are serious organizational wounds.
All right, that's enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. This is where we shift from chaos to control, using a proven framework to build our communication strategy right from the ground up. And here it is, the 6-step planning process. Think of this as your blueprint. We start by defining our purpose. What do we really want to achieve? Then we analyze our stakeholders. Who exactly are we talking to? From there, we make key strategic decisions and pick our channels. And only then do we get our support resources ready. The data, the visuals, the FAQs, and, this is crucial, create a feedback loop so it's a two-way street. Let's walk through the most important parts of this. Step 1 is a huge mental shift. You have to stop thinking about what you want to say. Instead, you need to ask yourself, after my audience hears this, what do I want them to think, feel, or do? Is your goal just to inform them? Or maybe it's to change their mind about something? Or are you trying to get them to take a specific action? Getting clear on your purpose dictates everything else that follows. Now, for what is probably the single most important step of all, analyzing your stakeholders. Who are you actually talking to? This isn't just about being nice, it's about getting ahead of any resistance. I mean, you wouldn't give a high-level summary to the engineers who have to actually build the thing, right? And you wouldn't bury your CEO in tiny technical details. You have to tailor your message, your format, and your delivery to fit their specific needs and concerns. So this brings us right to the heart of the whole process. Step 3. Once you know your purpose and your audience, you have to make 4 critical decisions. These are the pillars of your strategy: how you'll communicate, when you'll do it, where it's all going to happen, and who is going to deliver the message. Honestly, this is where most plans either fall apart or succeed brilliantly. First up, the how. This is all about choosing your method. Is the topic sensitive, like a performance review? That has to be face-to-face, where you can read body language. Do you need a detailed paper trail for legal reasons? Well, that needs to be in writing. And for really complex topics, like a big project launch, you'll probably need a combination of both. Next up is when. Timing isn't just about picking a day on the calendar. It's a strategic tool. The idea of staging is key here. That means releasing information in a very deliberate sequence. For example, you brief the managers first, so they're ready for their team's questions. You also have to check the company calendar to avoid a big clash of messages. Just remember, the timing itself sends a message. The where is all about the environment, and it has a huge psychological impact. A tough conversation? That requires total privacy. It shows respect and ensures you both can focus. A creative brainstorming session? That needs a comfortable, open space that gets people talking. The goal is always to minimize distractions and match the physical setting to the emotional tone you're trying to set. And finally, the who. The person delivering the message is just as important as the message itself, so you have to choose your spokesperson strategically. If the message is a final decision, it has to come from someone with authority. If it's a technical update, you need the expert who can field all the detailed questions. And if the message is about a difficult change, you need someone with empathy who can really connect with what the audience is feeling. This chart really helps translate those strategic pillars into specific channel choices. And this isn't about what's easiest for you, it's about what's most effective for the message. You have to look at the trade-offs. Face-to-face is fantastic for sensitive issues, but it's time-consuming and requires a lot of emotional control. Email is great for documentation, but its tone can be so easily misinterpreted. So this table isn't just a menu to pick from, it's a tool for making a very conscious, strategic choice.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work when things get messy? Let's apply this entire framework to a classic and often very tense business challenge, a major office restructuring. So here's the scenario. A company is moving from private offices to a modern, open-plan layout. Now, management is all excited about collaboration and synergy, but the employees, they are worried. Their biggest concerns are noise, constant distractions, and a total loss of privacy. Without a solid plan, this could be an absolute disaster for morale.
So, let's see how they use the framework. Their purpose wasn't just to announce the change, but to persuade and reassure people. Through stakeholder analysis, they figured out that coders and writers would be the most resistant group. Now check out their who strategy. It was brilliant. They used the HR director to talk about culture and the architect to give hard facts on acoustics. And the where? That was a masterstroke. They gave tours of a model office instead of holding a stuffy meeting. And finally, they used multiple channels to cover all their bases. That is strategy in action.
So we've covered the problem, we've walked through the framework, and we've seen it in a real-world situation. Now let's boil it all down into a simple, powerful blueprint that you can use for your very next communication challenge. Here it is, your strategic blueprint in 4 key actions. First, plan with purpose. Always start with the end in mind. Second, analyze your audience, inside and out. They are the absolute center of your plan. Third, strategize the details. Your choices of how, when, where, and who are not afterthoughts. They are the strategy. And finally, remember that communication is not a broadcast, it's a conversation. Always build in a feedback loop. So as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Consider the next important message you need to deliver. Looking back at that 6-step framework, which single step gives you the biggest opportunity to improve? Is it defining your purpose more clearly? Or maybe it's doing a much deeper analysis of your stakeholders. Your answer to that question is your first step toward becoming a truly strategic communicator.